I'll go. Lawona Chef.
Oh, he's back. Oh.
Move way.
Clover fresh milk.
Made with love by Clover.
From the lounge to the kitchen, it is a masterclass after all, so I believe it's time to get cooking. But before we get into today's treats, it's time for me to welcome back some of my favorite people in the whole entire world. Chef Chart. How are you, Chef Chart?
I'm fabulous and lovely to be back, cooking, and after all the festivities, I think, grown a little bit, but anyway, hey-ho.
Listen, the festive cheer definitely came through today and marked present. And someone else that is present in the loft is my darling friend, Chef Dumi. Hey, girl.
It always feels good to be in our kitchen and just cooking up a storm. And I know that our fridges are full of leftovers, so we're going to try and see if we can reuse all of that we have in the fridge.
Okay, good girl, because there is no wastage in our kitchen. Now, today, we are scratching those Christmas gammon leftovers and making some crispy golden brown gammon croquettes that will taste just like as fresh as from the time you cooked your gammon, thanks to Clover fresh milk. Dip it in a bit of Dijon mustard, and we promise you, we will be going back for seconds. Now give me, so not only seconds, because these are leftovers, I'm supposing thirds, fourths, and fifths.
Oh, yes, that's how we roll. We're trying to make sure that we get as much of these, much of it as you can. You want to have first, you want to have enjoy it for the first time, the second time, the third time. Basically, by the time you're done, your stomach should be so full.
Chef Chart, a gift that keeps on giving.
Basically.
Well, no, absolutely. And you know what I love about it, and I do lots of these things because I'm very fortunate to entertain. And you have a batch of this made up. I make it. You can make them fresh, as like Tumi was saying. Now I enjoy it, and actually take the mixture and pop it in the freezer. Ooh. And when it comes in 2-3 weeks' time, you're like, oh, I'm too lazy to make a little, little snack or something. You've already got all the mixture there. You need to thaw it out, roll it into balls, and off you go again. So it is certainly a wonderful dish that just keeps on givings for thirds and fourths and fifths and everything else as well. And let's face it, we've all got a bit of mustard in the fridge, so that's all that you basically need.
Okay, brilliant. So for our viewers who do not know what a croquette is, break it down for me as we get cooking.
Well, Chef, you want to break down that part while I get started with the sauce, because it is a bechamel-based dish. The croquette starts off with the bechamel sauce.
Sure.
Right?
So croquettes is one that uses a white sauce, a bechamel, if you want to be really fancy in chef's terms. So it's a white sauce base that you're adding something to. That's giving you the body, the bechamel, which Tumi's actually making now, which is your typical, flour and butter together, then add in your milk component. So that's your base from there. Then you've got something like, you've got your bitterballen, typically of Dutch, which is stew based. So you can imagine like a lovely ragu that you've cooked down. It's got really quite thick. You've popped it into the fridge. It's really firmed up a bit. You can then roll it and shape it.
And that's a bitterballen.
That's a bitterballen. Okay. Then whilst you're on the Dutch spectrum, you've got the croquetten. Now, croquette sounding quite similar, is actually more like sort of a sausage shape. In its sort of shape, which is very typically Dutch. You actually walk down the street. It's actually like a street food, and that you always dip it in a bit of mustard. And then, in terms of your fritters, that's actually a batter-based. So you've got something that you make a batter. So think of like a thick pancake batter. That's what you've actually got, and that's where you sort of fry those off from there. So basically, that's your actual mixture, your paste that you're actually making. So think of a thick bechamel sauce. Add in whatever you've got to. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be adding some ham into mine. So leftover Christmas ham. What else could it be? Christmas turkey. It could be chicken.
You can add a couple of different things. But for this, as you know, any bechamel sauce starts with a good dose of fat in there. So we're starting with some butter. And then in there I've added some of my flour. And today we're using our Clover fresh milk, which we all know is superior quality. So you know that you're giving your family the best quality when it comes to this bechamel sauce that we're making right here. And you can make it in any way. Like, we're using our milk here, and the whole reason, like, what Chef has got there is the thickened version of the sauce. So you want to cook it down until it's nice and thick, but don't get confused as to what it looks now. This is not yet where it needs to be. The flour still needs to cook off. So I'm going to keep adding this Clover fresh milk into there until it gets to the consistency that we want, and then we're going to add all those ingredients. I mean, the gammon that Chef is chopping up for us there, as well as the mustard that I've got over here as well, because that's what makes it so unique, as well as all the other ingredients, then the onions that Chef is chopping up, and all of this is the gammon part of it. But should you have perhaps some chicken in your fridge, should you have some lamb, whatever kind of meat you might have, this could definitely go in here as well. So what we've done is the sauce is now cooked down, and then into there I've added some gammon that we had a little earlier that we chopped chopped up. So this is where you'd add all your flavorings into, you know, your mustard. If you've got some chicken, you'd add it there. But now, once we've done that, we need this mixture to cool down. So it's cooled down to a point where you can now handle it. And this is where we start rolling it now into those croquettes that we want. And we've got a breading station here. As you know, a breading station would start off with some flour, some egg, and some breadcrumbs. But here, we're going to start it off, because the croquettes themselves are quite sticky, I'm not going to go with the flour just yet. I'm just going to go straight from the mixture itself. You do want it to hold its shape a bit more, but you do see ours is a little bit runny. But that's okay, because it makes it a little bit more adventurous and more, you know, it looks a little cuter. So I'm going to start with the flour, the breadcrumbs first. And then what this does, it just makes sure that the mixture can hold its form. And I'm now going to shape it into the shape that I want. And I'm going to make like a little sausage shape. And then if you want to make sure that you bread it even more and it's got a thick base, then you're going to go in with some of your egg mixture and then back into your breadcrumbs. I'm now going to go back to using one hand. Our oil is nice and heated up enough. And now we're going to start frying. This is the croquette part of our lamb croquettes, and just let them go nice and golden brown, and then we're going to start plating up.
Yeah, the gammon is looking delicious. It smells amazing here, Chef.
Absolutely. So, again, use things of what you think reminisce. So, like, I've put a little bit of nutmeg and thyme in here. So that really works well with ham. I mean, things are like, what else you got left over Christmas? Cranberries, you know, maybe.
Yeah.
A few little nuts in here. So you can really start adding up bits and pieces. You know, I always say, you know, you've got that little packet that's lurking in the kitchen that's been there for years, probably. Take that and pop it into here.
I love the fact that you also use thyme, just adding more floral flavours as well to the dish. And it definitely came out in that bite that I took.
But that's what you got, that freshness, that herbaceous notes coming through. But, so, you know, as I said, you know, you've got so much, just, you know, throw it in there. Get it in there, get it to that consistency, into nice hot oil, get it golden brown. I mean, oh, it's such a great... It really is. It's one of those things, just enjoy. Chef,
again, you touched on one of the very, very good and big and talking points when it comes to croquettes, is that Dijon mustard. Now, I enjoyed mine with that little splash of Dijon mustard. When it comes to balancing those flavours, why is that important to always, traditionally, we see the two going together?
Well, I think, you know, in certainly part of Europe where all this sort of comes from, you know, there's a lot of sort of sharp, acidic notes. But remember, you're talking about the sweetness, the creaminess that you're getting from the bechamel. You're wanting something to cut through that fattiness. It's being deep fried. And that's where that mustard really not just brings the mustardy flavour, but really that sharpness cuts all the way through. So that's, to me, why it works well.